the poles, yeah, doesn't that comport to the notion of a minute centripetal force coming into play? Possible scenario, isn't it?
Maybe it's possible, yeah, but you don't have any. You don't actually know because you don't have any science for what's causing this effect.
Well,
There's so much science published on that for centuries. Look into it. The better minds than you have looked into it.
Yes.
I doubt there are better minds than me, but there's literally no science for this because the science for this would require you. The science for this would require
meteorology a science?
to manipulate an independent.
Hang on, Jeremy.
The science for this would require. Guys, can I just finish real quick? I'm never long. I don't monologue.
They just don't want to hear what you have to say, Jeremy.
Yeah, dude. The science for this would be you have a cause and effect. You're trying to figure out the cause of an effect. What's causing the weight change with latitude change? If you tell me it's Earth rotation, that should be your independent variable, and you would have to vary and manipulate that, like what would happen in an experiment with an independent variable. That way, we know we get it right. That shit is foolproof.
Okay, so what you could also say is the hypothesis is that if you're on a rotating planetoid, things should be lighter at the equator and heavier because of the centripetal forces. You go and see what the cause and effect mechanism is there by measuring it at different latitudes. There's your independent variable, and seeing if that causes an effect. You're changing the weight. That's the cause and effect analogy.
All that is measuring. That's exactly what I said you would do. Hold on, man. That's exactly what I said you would do. You would just go measure the effect over and over again and just claim it's Earth rotating. You don't have any actual science. That's what you just did. You just said, "Oh, no, I didn't." You didn't affirming the consequence. If the weight changes with latitude change, then you're going to have a difference. But you don't have any actual science. You don't have any actual science for this.
I mean, before we carry on with this, did you just say a minute ago that you think? Are you being flippant, or do you think your mind is greater than the luminaries of science that came before you?
It doesn't. It's really irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Well, but could you just confirm whether you're just joking there, or whether you're being honest? Be serious.
It doesn't. It's totally irrelevant.
I know it is, but I just wanted, you said it. I just wondered if you were just having a joke or you're being serious.
Who's the guy? Give me the guy's name, and I'll tell you if I think my mind's better than his mind. I mean, I feel like that's pretty arbitrary on whose mind is better. Once you feel like that's arbitrary, I got Newton in my top. I got Newton in my top 5 smartest guys. If Newton was a real guy, I got him in my top 5 smartest guys ever.
And Newton.
Well, initially, the Academy of Sciences Paris, when they were developing the metric system, were well aware, and they by experimentation and measuring masses at the equator and in France and in Finland, the entire Academy of Sciences Paris. So you think that they're inferior?
Yeah, they didn't.
Doesn't matter. Now we're talking about this. Nice work, Paz. Instead of coming to the acknowledgement or some conclusion about you not having science for this, we're just on the endless dog shit now of non sequiturs and tactics and shit like that, right? That's what we're doing.
But Jeremy, can I take over for just a short moment? Because you could, if the Earth was a spinning ball and there is a Coriolis effect effectively causing this difference in weight, you would theoretically be able to actually isolate the influence. You know how? By separating yourself from the spinning reference frame, which means going up with that weight, being separated from the presupposed Earth spin, and thereby negating the influence. So you could actually vary and manipulate the effect. But guess what? When you take that material up in the balloon, first off, you're not then standing still as the Earth is spinning underneath you. And yeah, it's going to weigh the same. It's going to weigh exactly the same. So it's already debunked. It's debunked as an actual effect that you can vary manipulating, causing this difference of weight. It's already
and
debunked.
that's where the experiments of the ETFOS effect come in, where flying east and west adds and subtracts from the rotation of Earth, and the difference in weight was also measured because that was a reduction and increase in the centripetal force of the centrifugal of rotation.
Also,
no, that's not what they did at all. There was no flight involved in the Aether effect. It's total nonsense.
You say that?
You're just making it up.
No, who said you're making it up?
Yeah, you're making it up. You can't cite that. They didn't actually do that. You literally just made that shit up.
Okay.
There was no flight involved in those experiments.
Okay, let's go through what the Yutmos effect is and what is the cause of that effect.
Go ahead.
So we're not talking about Coriolis anymore. Now we want to talk about the Yutmos effect.
Things being heavier and lighter at different parts of the world is not Coriolis. It is the Yutmos effect we're talking about, isn't it?
It's not
because
maybe I missed something. Sorry.
Like other pseudo forces, I don't know if centripetal or which one of the two of those centro forces are pseudo. One seems to be an actual genuine force. If not, like if we're going to go like into this, like we're trying to figure out, there's an effect Coriolis. What's the cause for that? There's an effect of centripetal or centrifugal, which is indicative of rotation, as far as I know.
That's not the cause of Coriolis
That's-
effect.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
still not
asinine
Coriolis.
again.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
keep
know how
doing
many
it.
times Owen has to walk you through this, dude. That is not analogous. You're explaining something completely different and trying to compare it to Coriolis. It is not the same thing.
No, it's not.
If something is inside the reference frame, like the water
You're just being
bucket,
difficult.
and the
You're
water
just being
goes,
difficult.
you're being difficult. So
No,
No,
You're
you
being
refuse to
difficult.
acknowledge what Owen tells
Keep
you.
moving on to another thing that has nothing to do with the Coriolis effect. And you keep doing it. You
oh
keep
my goodness.
over and over
Like
and
you
over
kept
and
on
over.
rabbiting on for 5 minutes that Coriolis is a pseudo force. So there's an underlying. It's not Coriolis force; it's Coriolis effect. There is another force giving that like pseudo force effect. Just like inside the bucket, there is this
No.
effect of the water going
There
up
you
the
go again.
side. But
No,
the
it
real,
isn't. You
the
keep
real
doing it.
thing that's
You keep
happening
doing
is
the
the
same thing
rotation.
over and over again. Yeah,
Because you
no,
like
there
to
is
avoid
no force.
rotation.
There is no
You
force
really
that
love to
causes
avoid
Coriolis
rotation.
effect.
That's the real problem with you.
No, the
Every
real
time
problem
like
is that you
rotation
have
causes
shit in
an
your
effect,
ears and
you just go into panic mode.
refusing to accept
You're
that
spiraling,
forces are not the cause of
spiraling.
Coriolis effect. You keep overlooking it. You keep doubling down. That's what you're doing.
You're trying to say your centripetal and centrifugal transfer over into Coriolis when they just it's not how it works.
Rotation would.
Yeah,
Rotation
you
would.
need rotation and movement.
Rotation is a movement.
And movement. Want to say it again? Or you just want to talk?
Rotation
And
is a
movement.
movement.
No, I said and movement. You need both to get that effect.
Rotation is a movement.
Holy fucking Christ. How do you just not listen to anything that people tell you? I didn't say rotation
need-
isn't a movement, right? But you pivot right to an instant straw man. I said and. Do you
Okay.
understand the definition of the word and?
So you need one movement and another movement. Okay, that's fair enough.
No, rotation and movement.
Rotation
4,
is a
5
movement.
times?
The other movement.
I don't care
Well,
if
if-
rotation's a movement or not. This is what I mean.
So
You're
what
being
if-
difficult for no reason. Like, I try to
that
explain
rot-
it to you, and you're just like, murmuring dumb shit. That means nothing. It doesn't
But
like
that-
bring any
the
benefit
movement-
to the discussion.
But the movement is in the radius of the Earth. So it's an arc of the radius of Earth.
What? No, Coriolis effect is an apparent deviation. There does not need to be a force involved. It could be a stationary object. The observer has to be the thing that's moving. And then, from the observer's perspective, if they overlook that they're the one that is moving, they can perceive things that are not part of their moving platform, wherever they're looking from, and think of that as being a thing in motion while you're standing still. That, exclusively that, is the Coriolis.
No, it's not, is it? Something's still
Forces have
moving in your
no
reference.
play in it. Forces are not involved.
Okay, but it is something moving with respect to your reference frame, isn't it? You don't get Coriolis on stationary things from your perspective.
The thing that you perceive as being deviating due to Coriolis effect does not have to be the subject of any forces. It can be literally stationary. Yeah,
No, it can't be literally stationary.
Relevant to the Coriolis effect.
It's not literally stationary in any reference. In all the reference frames, it's not stationary in any of them. Something that's inducing Coriolis effect.
Thing that you are perceiving as moving due to Coriolis effect can be stationary. It could be
Okay,
moving.
you keep
but
saying it
can
all you
be
like, but it's not
stationary.
true.
Yeah, that is true. That is
It's not
absolutely true. Yeah, it is true. You can be on a merry-go-round, have an object outside of the merry-go-round, and as you spin on the merry-go-round, you see that thing spinning around you. Well, guess what? It isn't
That's
spinning.
not the Coriolis
You're
effect.
spinning,
That's
and that
not the
thing
Coriolis
is
effect.
stationary, and you're looking at it as if it were spinning around you. You're spinning between
you
it.
keep asserting that's the
actually
Coriolis
happens.
effect, but
That's
it's not.
Coriolis deviation.
No, Arwen's right there. You guys are conflating the Coriolis effect with the Coriolis force. There's a distinction there, bro. And what he's saying is absolutely correct. Dude. In general relativity, the ellipse of the Earth around the sun is an effect, just like Coriolis effect, because really the Earth is traveling in a straight line. It's an inertial state. It's not curving at all.
Is he talking about the effect or the force?
He's talking about the effect.
Okay, so the first line of AIOV.
So it's illusory.
The first line of the AIOV, the Coriolis effect, is a apparent force that influences the path of moving objects in a rotating body like Earth. It does not affect stationary objects.
That's
It
not the
doesn't really
point. The point is that you.
it just makes it look
Why
like
does it say it's not a stationary
it
object?
doesn't actually influence. Nah, man.
Gosh, wait, let Jeremy finish.
I mean, me and Lion started at the same time. Go ahead, Lion. I'm busy anyways. Go ahead.
No, that wasn't me. That was Erwin. That went.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I know. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead, Lion.
No, yeah, the Coriolis effect is an illusion. It's illusory. It's not actually curving. It's traveling in a straight line. And a parallel to that is the Earth
heavily.
You got out there.
Oh my goodness. Well, according to relativity, the Earth in a geodesic entirely straight line is actually not moving. It's in an inertial state, and space-time is curving around it. So it's not moving. Yet you still have curvature. You still have an ellipse.
This isn't.
Go ahead.
This isn't that topic. We're talking about, like, if Coriolis is an effect, what's the cause of that effect? And if there's an effect on scales at different latitudes, what's the cause of that? And are they the same cause? Right?
Yeah, the cause of the Coriolis.
And like these centripetal, centrifugal.
Is on a moving reference frame. That's the cause of the Coriolis effect. Is the person, the observer?
Hold on, bro.
You're robot mind.
Jeez. All right, I just want to explain this real quick. Can I get in?
You could, but you're roboting really heavy.
Yeah, if you were roboting like crazy, Lion,
All right,
go stand somewhere stationary.
I'm done.
Get out of your Coriolis.
Got you loud and clear. Go ahead, Lion.
Yeah, you have the rotating reference frame, right? The rotating reference frame would be the guy on the Earth. The guy on the Earth is on a rotating reference frame. It's known as the non-inertial reference frame. Also, right? That guy is going to perceive things curving because of the Earth is allegedly rotating, right? Even though the things that are curving aren't actually curving. That's what we know as a Coriolis effect. Nothing to do with forces.
The postulation of the Earth spinning. I mean, there's better examples for that. Kind of confusing, but yes, correct.
So regardless of forces, right? We don't need to invoke any type of forces. It's just kinematic. Things look like they're curving when they're actually traveling straight. That's the Coriolis effect. Go ahead.
But something is rotating, like that merry-go-round is rotating regardless if the ball appears to go straight from a different observer. And like with centripetal and centrifugal, if one or both are pseudo forces, their effects, they could be a centrifugal effect or a centripetal effect. I don't remember quite which is a force, but if one, yeah. So
very cool.
But that's kind of telling, though, right? That's kind of telling. It's been explained to you about 15 times which one's a force, which one's a pseudo.
It's 4:30 in the morning or something. No, it's not called listening. Like, I'm getting tired. Like, and it's not like worth repeating the same things to me because I'm admitting at the moment I can't recall which one it is because for me it's a bit
go to
late.
bed,
Okay.
You might want to go to bed because this argument you're trying to make is not relevant to the Coriolis effect. We've been trying to tell you. You keep trying. I mean, just get some sleep or something because it's all indicative of rotation being the cause.
Go to bed. We need you like, strong and refreshed, bro. You need to come with your A game when you come against these flat earthers. So it doesn't work when you're got a handicap on.
Thanks for trying. Come
so
again.
If anyone who's more alert than me would like to continue on that, I appreciate just listening in for now because I think rotation is indicative.
Yes, thanks for playing though.
Dude, don't hang around listening. Go to bed, man. It's 4 o'clock.
Let me finish my sentence, dude. Let me finish my sentence. Rotation is indicative of centripetal, centrifugal effects and Coriolis effects. Thanks.
Cool. I mean, you don't need to go to bed. You don't need to listen.
All right,
but
good night, bro. No, you guys, if you keep talking to him, he's gonna respond
with the same thing.
Just let him go to bed.
He can respond. He can respond. He can engage, but just don't like blame that you're tired when you don't have an answer.
Yeah, when you want to run away from it. That's cool though.
Oh, please let him run.
Arguing for the globe is very tiresome. So,
like debating it against 5v1 or whatever it is at the moment is tiring. In addition to like how late it is, so the fact that I can't currently recall which of the centripetal or centrifugals are the force.
Why don't you Google it real quick? You could have already Googled it by now.
Yo, 5v1 is crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all really
We're making this boy a flat.
I should have a reference.
It's interesting. It's just not related to the Coriolis.
Boy's real tired. Arwen and Pure Rigger, they count as 5 somehow. Maybe Cooper's 1 and Arwen and Pure Rigger, he's seeing double vision. He's that tired.
Oh, Lion got in there too.
Questions about forces, it's just not relevant to the Coriolis effect. I don't know how much clearer I could make that. That's it.
But yeah, it's just like if you move your hand in still water, you'll see like vortices start appearing, trailing your hand, right? So if the sun's moving from east to west and it's causing some type of dynamic shift in the atmosphere, you expect to see some type of vortices behind the sun.
Look, the whole idea, let me address this for a second in the silence. The whole idea that tornadoes spinning in one direction, north of the equator and south of the equator, is caused by presupposed Earth spin can be very easily refuted by creating such whirling effects within an isolated object that would be separated from the Earth spin. Otherwise, in other words, you go in a balloon, whatever, you let it drift, it should then separate itself from the spinning Earth as a reference frame. So whatever the water or to create some kind of spin is going to do is going to be not caused logically by the Coriolis effect. So that's how you then isolate the Coriolis effect in order to prove that it is causing the effect that you think it is. You have to do that. Otherwise, it's not a legitimate experiment. You have to vary and manipulate the independent variable, the thing that you think is causing the effect. If you don't do that, you don't have an experiment. You don't have science. It's that simple.
Don't they always like find a way to pull you back into the Earth's reference frame when you're in the atmosphere of Earth?
Yes, they do it by
So it's like,
saying that the atmosphere moves in lockstep with the Earth rotation, which is absolutely asinine because that's not based on actual air behavior. It wouldn't do that. But
in their model, there is if you're in the air, you're in the same reference frame. It's not like you like jump up and now you got out the reference frame. They have the air rotating with it, so yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work. And you can demonstrate that by
that's an argument, yeah.
Centrifuge and put sand and water in it and leave room for air, then spin it up to incredible speeds, and you'll notice if you move on the inside where the air is, that it's not spinning. And it's not spinning close to the sand and the water either. Like there's no air movement. It just bobs back and forth depending on what it's meeting that is actually spinning, right? It's not going to drag. The air does not drag with a moving object. But by saying that the atmosphere moves in lockstep with the Earth rotation, which is absolutely asinine because that's not based on actual air behavior. It wouldn't do that. But
in their model, there is if you're in the air, you're in the same reference frame. It's not like you like jump up and now you got out the reference frame. They have the air rotating with it, so yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work.
They have the air rotating with it, so yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work. They do it by saying that the atmosphere moves in lockstep with the Earth rotation, which is absolutely asinine because that's not based on actual air behavior. It wouldn't do that.
In their model, there is if you're in the air, you're in the same reference frame. It's not like you like jump up and now you got out the reference frame. They have the air rotating with it, so yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work. And you can demonstrate that by
that's an argument, yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work, which is absolutely asinine because that's not based on actual air behavior. It wouldn't do that.
They have the air rotating with it, so yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work. And you can demonstrate that by
that's an argument, yeah. They have the air rotating with it, so yeah.
Yeah, but that in reality that couldn't work.
Flight today, Heathrow to JFK, headed west-southwest, cause there ain't no better way. Gonna find that old Coriolis, they say she's hidden in the winds, but that just can't be if we rotate east, tangential gradient. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis must be hidden in the winds, but the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. And we all know every pilot treats treats the earth as motionless. So to think it must be moving is just insane, you must confess. But please don't get offended if this song makes too much sense. Just thank God that landing's easy, with no tangential grading in the winds. They said she'd just be hidden in the winds, but the earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis just ain't hidden in these winds. And the earth ain't moving faster with the further south we go. So thank God we won't be crashing when those wheels hit down below. Hidden in the winds, there ain't no Coriolis hidden in the winds. And thank God it's stationary, or we never safely land on a surface that is moving with a tangential gradient. Yes, here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis just ain't hidden in these winds. And their earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And thank God we won't be crashing when we touch down at the end. And thank the Lord, Earth is stationary, or we never safely land on a surface that is moving. There's no tangential gradient.
Just fuck around and find out. See what happens.
Right. Yeah, but the whole dressing code, right? I mean, that's a word.
Like, this is even with basic Coriolis effect, a merry-go-round. You need to change in order to get out of the reference frame. Or sorry, in order to have the Coriolis effect, you need to change your tangential speed in relation to the rotating thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just stand there and hold a baseball, you're on a merry-go-round, you're holding a baseball, there is no Coriolis effect because the baseball is moving with the rotation of the thing. It's only when you throw it, and now it's changing its tangential velocity in relation to the merry-go-round or whatever it is. It's the only way you get it.
Right. It needs to be untethered.
The thing. It's only when you throw it in relation to the rotating thing at a merry-go-round. You need to.
You are magically no longer in the reference frame of Earth.
Yes. Oh, the gyro. That's a whole lot
The
of stories.
pendulum, the gyro, all that
stand-
stuff isn't in the reference
Yeah.
frame because what you need to do is like this is even with basic Coriolis effect, a merry-go-round. You need to change in order to get out of the reference frame. Or sorry, in order to have the Coriolis effect, you need to change your tangential speed in relation to the rotating thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just stand there and hold a baseball, you're on a merry-go-round, you're holding a baseball, there is no Coriolis effect because the baseball is moving with the rotation of the thing. It's only when you throw it, and now it's changing its tangential velocity in relation to the merry-go-round or whatever it is. It's the only way you get it.
Right. It needs to be untethered. like a hot air balloon. Is a hot air balloon tethered when it's flying around? No, it isn't. So that
What if you
would
just
then separate the reference frame.
What if you just stood on a gyro and did your test from there? Would that you'll be in an independent reference frame?
Yeah, well, that doesn't make any sense. I mean,
Oh, I agree.
It's locked in momentum-wise, so it's gonna not change its internal motion because of the centrifugal forces basically forcing it to stay in its exact orientation, no matter what's happening around it or what you do with it. Right? That's what gyroscopes really do. No matter what's happening around it or what you do with it. Right? That's what gyroscopes really do. So in effect, yes, they have their own independent reference frame. But I mean, all that is basically an admission, like, yeah, the Earth is a spinning ball, because if it were, then gyroscopes wouldn't do what they do. They would show you continually how the Earth is spinning. It would turn 24. It would turn in 24 hours 360 degrees. And it does. How the Earth is spinning. It would turn 24. It would turn in 24 hours 360 degrees. And it doesn't.
Math.
So does
One
anybody
thing I've
disagree
noticed
with
that there's
that?
people. I was just going to say there's people in the flat Earth community that are decidedly against ether, and I smell a dead fish. I don't like it because everybody I know and respect instantly recognized ether as something that should be paid attention to. And anyone that ignores ether, and and I don't know. Everybody's
Well,
free to have their own ideas, but it's obvious to me.
You should recognize where quantum mechanics stole it. That's why the ether guys always make me mad. They don't tell you that, where the quantum mechanics, because what they do is they isolate the system. And instead of, relating it to you as a frequency like they should. But they'll always be using the ether math, always, on any project they're talking about. They just give you a different language. They don't want you to know.
Alchemy,
you do know, you do understand that
real quick.
Michelson, that did the ether experiment, denounced ether himself, right?
Let's talk
Right,
about
dude,
that experiment, shall we? Everybody says null result. I want somebody in here right now to tell me what the null result was. How many kilometers a second was the null result?
No. Calm down.
Well,
After the experiment, he has on multiple occasions denounced ether after the experiment, multiple times.
Yeah, but you gotta be specific, right? He denounced what type of ether? Static.
Exactly.
He denounced his experiment and said that Albert Einstein was right.
Hold on.
That's what he said.
Dude, wait. Am I breaking up again, dude? I only got one bar.
Go for it.
Spit it out.
So yeah, he denounced static ether. Nobody here believes in static ether. We believe in dynamic ether. And if you were to go review the experiment with dynamic ether included, there's no problem at all. That dynamic ether would then justify the Sagnac effect. You wouldn't need the Lorentz contraction because the dynamic ether would affect the propagation of light.
Lorentz.
Yeah, so if you know about that, let me say the null. You want to talk about the null result? What was the null result in kilometers per second? If you know the experiment so well, you don't know, do you? Let's add a little lesson for everybody then about this experiment here. So they suspected they'd either get 30 kilometers a second in drift or 0, and 0 would have been the true null result. But they didn't get either of those. They got 6 kilometers per second, which they couldn't understand at the time. And of course, if you thought there was a static ether that the Earth was moving through, you'd either suspect the 30, like I said, or 0 and get nothing. Well, they got 6, and the 6 was the sidereal rotation. the lateral movement. So the null result isn't a 0, it's a 6. And that 6 needs to be dealt with. And that's exactly how we deal with it. There's a dynamic ether. So when somebody says, he ruled out the ether, whatever, it's a static ether, that's a straw man. Straight up. Exactly, Lion.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a straw man. They
Yeah,
had to. They're
it's a lot of
mainstream.
times. It's a straw man. Because if you were to understand that the Earth is not moving, it's fixed, stationary, immovable, and then you have a dynamic ether that's rotating around us, that changes everything. If you were to reevaluate the Michelson-Morley experiment, Michelson-Gale experiments with a dynamic ether, there's no problem with it, guys. And actually, that would explain the celestial bodies and the retrograde loops. All that stuff could be explained with dynamic ether. Seriously.
You can't lie to you unless they lie about the physics of the world. That's how it works. No such thing as a light year. Ain't happening.
Such thing as a light year.
What do you mean?
A light year.
What's wrong with light traveling for a year and knowing how long
It's a
that distance
concept,
is?
right? It's a
You got to have
concept.
power.
If
Go
light
ahead.
travels at this speed for a year, right? But can you hand me a light year? Like, it's a concept, bro. It doesn't actually exist.
You know, earlier you guys were talking about centripetal forces. According to GR, the centrifugal forces are fictitious. They're pseudo, and even gravity is a pseudo force because the Earth is on a geodesic. It's in an inertial reference frame. There are no forces acting upon it. That means the centrifugal forces are all pseudo, and gravity is a pseudo force.
These
Go ahead.
people don't know the line of delineation between science and pseudoscience, because how many times have you heard them say that observational science is science, natural science? So to them, pseudo force, like, they don't care about pseudo. Like, they probably go to a Muslim court and plead guilty if they're a Christian or Jew. These Globers. How you gonna break Sharia law if you're not a Muslim?
And not only that, it's, they can't delineate between Newtonian mechanics and Einsteinian, and there's a big difference, dude. Einsteinian replaced what Newton had established, completely replaced it. Granted, you can come up with similar equations, right? And granted, Newtonian mechanics is pragmatic, it has utility, right, on the local scale. But just because it has utility doesn't mean that's actually what's going on in reality, because Einstein completely flipped the script. He's talking about the bending and warping of space-time, and that the Earth actually isn't moving. It's on a geodesic. That space-time is actually curving around the Earth. I'm serious. Completely, it's you can't. They're incompatible, guys.
Right, so the orbit would be described as movement along that geodesic.
The Earth is not actually. The Earth is in an inertial state. There are no forces acting upon it at all. Instead, space-time is actually curving. Space-time is actually curving around the Earth, giving the effect of motion, or giving the effect of centripetal forces. But that's all pseudo. That's all fictitious, according to GR. Seriously. Where in Newtonian mechanics, centripetal force is a real force. And mass is actually attracting mass. It's a real force.
They don't want to talk about gravity, not while I'm here.
But regardless, when it comes to the ether stuff, guys, like, if the whole sky was moving around the Earth was the center, was at the center of the cosmos, and it was immovable and fixed. That would like with the what's it called, the neo-Tychonian model of the cosmos with Mach's principle in place. You could actually do away with time dilation. You could do away with expansion, inflation, dark energy, dark matter, and you could explain both kinematically and dynamically everything that's going on in the sky, and you wouldn't need any of the other stuff. And all you would need a dynamic ether that's actually causing real forces, right? So instead of pseudo forces, you would have real centrifugal and centripetal forces acting upon the planets or the luminaries. They have the math for this stuff, dude. They've published the papers. It's just that most people that are fond of Einstein, they're not willing to go back previous to Einstein, pre-relativity days, because that's what modern science would have to go back to the drawing board. They would have to go back to pre-relativity and reevaluate the experiment from a completely different premise, foundation.
And we all know every pilot treats the Earth as motionless. So to think it must be moving is just insane, you must confess. But please don't get offended if this song makes too much sense. Just thank God that landing's easy, with no tangential grading in the winds. They said she'd just be hidden in the winds, but the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, 'cause we ain't on no damn globe.
I mean, Einstein himself said, dude, in his own, I don't have all the quotes in front of me, but people have shared them before. Einstein in his own letters, he said that there's no absolute frame. He talks about the equivalence principle, and that whether the Earth was moving or whether the sun is moving, it's observationally equivalent. It's kinematically equivalent either way, whether the Earth is moving or the sun is moving. The math would work for both.